You have to know this. The fact that I'm here matters. The fact that you're there matters. This is no accident. None of us are.
هذه هي قوة مصر.
لقد قررت أن أتنحى تماماً.
Red everywhere, essentially, down by 4-5%. We're down over 16%.
Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate.
Because the Muhammad Ali Joe Frazier is going to be better than the Muhammad Ali.
Our country is strong. A great people has been moved to defend a great nation.
نريدها قومة ونهضة إسلامية.
سنعود إلى كويتنا كما عهدناها دار أمن وأمان.
Yes, we can.
تقول القاعدة: كل ما تشتهي أنت والبس ما يشتهي الناس. ضيفنا اليوم دايموند جون كسر هذه القاعدة، فأسس مجموعة الأزياء الخاصة به والتي عرفت على مستوى العالم. هو لم يكسر فقط هذه القاعدة بل كسر قواعد عديدة، منها على سبيل المثال هو من عانى من مرض بطء التعلم فتحول ليكون معلما بل ملهما بأهم المشاريع الصغيرة هنا في الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية. هو قرش أو شارك كما يسمى في أهم البرامج في العالم، شارك تانك. هو الشخص الذي كان فقيرا ثم غنيا وعاد ليدعم أصحاب المشاريع الصغيرة ويحولها إلى أهم المشاريع الناجحة الكبيرة.
مغامر جريء استلهم النجاح من والدته، ومن فتاحة خشبية للمعلبات كانت تعلقها على حائط مطبخها تحمل جملة فكر على مستوى كبير. بدأ حياته ببيع القبعات وهو صبي صغير. إنه دايموند جون الذي فكر كثيرا في الاستسلام، لكنه كان محاطا بأفراد يحفزونه على الاستمرار والمنافسة، حتى أصبح يصف نفسه بأنه مستثمر كسمكة القرش، أي أنه تاجر مغامر يعرف كيف يختار المشروعات التي تدر عليه أرباحا كبيرة، وهو وصف استمده جون من أحد برامج تلفزيون الواقع، كما حظى بعلاقات جيدة مع المشاهير وقادة العالم.
Hey,
Hello,
you made it.
Damon. Nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you for coming all the way over here to check me out.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It is a great pleasure having you, Mr. Damon, for many achievements. I'm loving all of them, but especially Shark Tank. I'm a big fan of that.
We have a good time.
I saw hundreds of episodes.
Hundreds?
Hundreds of episodes.
So you've seen a couple of times?
Yes, yes. And just so you know, also, of course, I adore you being the fashion icon. And I wanted to ask you since the beginning, how do you feel with my outfit?
I love it. I love it. It's cool.
Should that be part of your chain? And
yeah, we'll make a whole bunch of colors. All right?
Thank you. Thank you. I think our director had prepared another location for us.
Sure.
Where we can have a chat regarding your achievements. And you said before a while ago, why not to talk about
and of course some of my failures.
Yes, which
right?
they
I have way more of those than I have achievements. Yeah.
And we'll have a big discussion through your childhood till today and in the future.
I'm excited. Let's walk
so
through it.
Will you allow us to go there?
Yeah, sure. Come on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
في عام 1992 وبرأس مال يقدر ب $45 فقط أنشأ أول مشروع تجاري له لبيع الأزياء في بيت والدته في الدور الأول، ليصبح بعد ذلك صاحب العلامة التجارية المعروفة حاليا في عالم الأزياء فوبو، والتي تعتبر اختصارا لكلمة فورس باي أس، من أجلنا ومن صنعنا. وتقدر ثروة دايموند جون اليوم حوالي 6 مليار دولار.
So, Mr. Damon, let us start this conversation with taking you back to your early days. Now I'm in front of the shark, Daymond John, but how was it being young, an only child for a mother and a grandfather? How was those days?
Well, you know, the earlier days, my father was around. He was around till I was about 10 years old. So, you know, my father was a very disciplined man from Trinidad, and my mother, African American. They were very hard-working individuals that would always really emphasize just hard work, education, hard work. They would all emphasize education and hard work. So my father was actually a computer programmer in the earlier days, and I would come home and I would see all these manila cards, these big cards, you know, with just punch holes in them, right? That's when computers were like the size of this room. And they both were, you know, people who were striving to go to college. So my mother was trying to go to college when he was working, and vice versa. Then they got divorced. And then I became basically, you know, a child that I didn't have any siblings, and it was just my mother and I. I never spoke to my father again. They had a pretty bad divorce. And then I was kind of on my own. And my mother now had to start working so many other jobs to try to put the same amount of food on the table that when she was married, she didn't have any support. And at first, I used to go to Catholic school. I was in Catholic school up until, I think, 5th or 6th grade. But you know, after the divorce, they couldn't afford that anymore. And I also started to act up as a child. I started to act out because now I didn't have anybody to watch over me, and I actually got left back. I would later on realize that I'm dyslexic, and that, you know, anything in math and science was no problem, but when it came to, you know, reading and English and things like that, I always had a challenge. And that was really the beginning stages. And then this music started to really take hold of me, which was called rap and hip hop.
Yes.
And today people, you know, wouldn't realize that that was our only form of information of other communities. Because as a kid who liked rap and hip hop, an African American child, we got to share in that music things that we loved or hated or things of that nature. It was like social media today. It was like our version of Twitter. Because in the news, you wouldn't see what other African Americans were going through. You would never see anything. You would never see any other African American on television that you can maybe look up to. There was a couple of people you could look up to, but very few. And so that was the early stages of my life.
I know that you don't call it a sickness. Having this problem, facing reading, if you said it once, if you read a book, you need to read it 4 times just to understand what a normal person would read it for once.
Sure.
I know that many had the same career. They started poor and became those billionaires, but not many had the same situation you had. How was that combination? You had the...
Yeah, so, you know, my challenge was not that rare. If you look at it, you know, 20% of the world is dyslexic. Reading is fairly new to us as a species. That's why hieroglyphics and those things of that nature are really what it is. And out of the sharks, if you look at the 6 sharks, 4 are dyslexic.
Wow.
In America, as we study entrepreneurs, 38% of entrepreneurs are dyslexic. But as growing up as a kid, the challenge growing up as a kid is that, you know, if you're in class and you can't read that well, or I've also learned if you have loss of hearing as a child, you know, you don't want to go and ask questions all the time because other kids are going to call you stupid. And sooner or later you shy away from traditional schoolwork. But then when you're out there, you know, hanging out, some of the other people out there in the communities who may not have resources around them, they go, well, you're not that dumb. Why don't we do something else together? And that's when temptation could potentially come into play. So I didn't have that problem because my mother always made me feel that I had value, no matter what. And I also knew that I don't care how hard the test was the next morning, I could go out and play basketball all night, and if it was a math or science test, I would pass it, with no problem. So I just had this level of confidence that was probably instilled by my mother and my family and my friends around me.
Of course, now you enjoy being a boss, but do you remember that boss that you loved the most?
The boss that I love the most, I don't think I've ever been asked that question before. I've had many bosses, and I don't think that I appreciated the one that I loved the most at first, because he was an entrepreneur. So the one that I had when I worked at, I worked at like a flea market, and the entrepreneur boss was always very much on me, and needed results. I would then move on to work and companies and corporations, and there was some form of I need results, but it was more just somebody who just managed. There was a difference between a manager and the other person, and I can tell the difference now. It was an entrepreneur against somebody working at a corporation. So I didn't really appreciate the first boss as much, and now looking back, I was actually working at a place, it was a popcorn stand. I used to sell popcorn, knishes, and pretzels. And I remember the owner used to always count the cups and understand how many cups were, and I'm a little kid, I drink some soda, I throw it away, but he was looking at his inventory for the most part, and even if he wasn't looking at his inventory, every dime counted. When you worked at a company and a corporation like Red Lobster, no matter what, they throw this out, they throw this out. So I never really appreciated that boss until you just asked me that question.
Mr. Daymond, you motivate people, but what motivates you the most?
What motivates me every day is the fact that I look back and I look at whether the problems we're having globally or even the problems we have domestically, and knowing that there are few men and women of color that people can look up to that aren't necessarily somebody that has a very specific talent of being able to be an athlete or an actor, an actress, a singer, nothing wrong with that. And when I know that Shark Tank is one of the top shows watched from kids 5 to 15 years old on networks and parents and kids together, and I know that when I get up there, I can not only empower the people that I'm investing in, and they're also empowering me because I'm allowing to invest in their dream, and they're also teaching me the new ways that business is being done. But when I know that a family is watching me and the next Steve Jobs or the next Bill Gates is in their pajamas eating cereal watching me, that inspires me. I've been very fortunate to travel the world as a young kid, and I can get back to that later. And my mother, when my stepfather came in my life, happened to be of the Jewish faith, and I started to understand that people are people no matter what. And now when people see me on the show, I think that they understand that as well.
Who, on those early days, or even now, who do you seek for advice?
Who do I go to for advice? Well, first of all, I don't go to any of the sharks for advice because they're not smart. But my mother still is very, very important to me, my stepfather. But then I also seek out other people who are mentors to me. Jay Abraham is a well-known mentor. He's known like another version of Tony Robbins in the world. Also, some of my entrepreneurs that I invest in and some of the kids in my office, because we're changing every single day with social media and technology, and sometimes mentors are older, but sometimes mentors are younger. My kids as well. My kids were on Snapchat 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know how long ago it was, right? So instead of sometimes making fun and seeing what they're doing, and I started asking what they're doing. My business partners and all my friends around me. So I constantly seek advice from many, many people.
Shark Tank. Let's talk about Shark Tank.
Yeah.
I heard the story that the reason behind having Shark Tank on TV is to fill the time where the numbers of people watching the channel drops. And then it turned to be one of the most shows that is watching here in the United States and all over the world.
Yeah.
How did all that start?
Well, it really started from a show called, I think, Tiger's Den in Japan, and then they moved it over to be called Dragon's Den. And I believe that the story goes that the first show was a bunch of Japanese businessmen, and somebody sit there across the table, and they had the money in front of them. They bang, oh yeah, or get out of here. Then it moved, and it became Dragon's Den, and it became #1 in Japan, London, and Canada. They then moved it over to America, and Mark Burnett was a big fan of it from being in London and called it Shark Tank. And on ABC, and ABC gave it its real shot as Shark Tank. When you see it on CNBC, that is exactly what happened. CNBC decided to have different forms of entertainment, kind of business related, in the evening because nobody's watching it during the day, during the evening because of obviously it's not the market's not open, and it starts to do really, really well, and then they rolled out other shows like The Prophet and other things of that nature. So that's where you see the older episodes, and ABC is where you see all the new episodes. So Shark Tank is almost like an entrepreneur. It tried here and moved over here, moved to this time, and it started to grow, and that's why it started to become big, because it was really the voice of entrepreneurs in a very specific way, and everybody can relate to empowerment and entrepreneurship.
لمع اسم دايموند جون كأحد أهم المؤسسين للبرنامج الشهير شارك تانك مع 5 آخرين من كبار رجال الأعمال أصحاب الثروات الضخمة في مختلف المجالات. فكرة برنامج شارك تانك باختصار أنه يتيح الفرصة لأصحاب المشاريع والابتكارات لعرض مشاريعهم أمام هؤلاء القروش ال5، وعندما تنال هذه الفكرة إعجاب أحد هؤلاء القروش فإنه يتبنى هذا المشروع ويساهم فيه بنسبة يتم الاتفاق عليها بينه وبين صاحب المشروع.
You being part of the team, how did that start? You to be part of that?
Well, you know, I was on MSNBC and CNBC. I was giving information back in 2001, 2005, and doing interview Donnie Deutsch. And Mark Burnett saw me talking about it. And they gave me a call, and I think, you know, the first kind of interview was, you know, it was a big conference room. I was in my big conference room, and we're looking at this widescreen, and all these producers are talking to me about what they're going to do and the show, and I'm sitting there going, this is crap. Nobody's going to watch this stuff. And then, you know, I guess when you tell people in Hollywood that no, right, they want you more. And I said, who else is going to be on the show? And they told me a couple of names, and then they said, and Mark Cuban is going to be on the show. And at that time, I didn't know Mark. And I said, you mean the loudmouth guy from the NBA, the billionaire that's always on TV? He's not going to ever do. You're really full of crap now. But, you know, I said, all right, here's the terms. I'll do the show. I'll come out, I'll shoot the pilot, whatever that is. I want a free trip to California. Got a couple of friends out there. And I want to be able to pitch Mark Burnett a couple of my ideas of reality shows, and that's the term. I go out, I do the show, whatever. I don't think it's ever going to be picked up. I actually am wearing my earrings on the show because I'm going to go out to a club that night. The show gets picked up. They tell me, now on, you got to always wear the earrings because everybody knows you for that. I go, pitch my 3 ideas to Mark Burnett. They were the most horrible TV ideas ever. He was nice enough to say no in my face, and that's it. And then I decided to go back on the show.
You lost $1 million in the first season.
Yeah.
What made you continue?
Well, because, you know, this is real business, real investments, and I didn't know I was losing the money at the time. You know, it was an investment, right? So, you know, I started to explain to people how much money I lost. I think it was about $750, but it feels like $10 million. After about 3-4 years, because you don't just put the money and poof, it goes away, right? So I really didn't realize what was happening, but I'm competitive. And I also know that at the end of the day, the buck stops at me. And if that money was gone, there's something I did wrong. I didn't do enough research on the product. I didn't surround myself with enough people to help me with this product, experts, or I didn't love the product. Either way, the buck stops at me. So it was my responsibility to secure that money or secure that investment in a way that I knew that it would give me back a return.
Is it that simple as we see it on TV? It's the 2 minutes or 3 minutes presentation with simple questions and the deal is done?
It is absolutely not that simple. So the shortest pitch I've ever witnessed was probably about 17 or 18 minutes. The longest pitch I've ever witnessed was 2.5 hours. Everybody only sees 8 minutes of it. And after that, it takes us anywhere from 3 months, 6 months to 9 months to actually close the deal. These days, I'm at a 90% close ratio on the deals. And the deals can change a little bit. Some deals I've had to give more money because there was more value than I realized was in the company, or the company needed more money. And many deals I had to give less money because there were some things that we didn't find out there on the stage. But we don't know anything about those people when they walk in the room. Not one single thing about them.
What makes you take the pitch or buy the product or buy the idea? Is it the idea? Is it the timing? Is it the person presenting the idea?
Yeah, you know, I always say that at the end of the day, there's two ways to acquire or invest in the company. There is you're investing from a standpoint of an investor, and you're looking for a monetary, reward. And in those times, we're not investing in the company. We're investing in kind of the product. Like, okay, this company is already doing this. It has enough of inventory or enough customers, and I can easily put this in and send that out there. And I want to replace the person running it. But 90% of the time, I'm investing in the people. I'm investing in a really good operator.
So when we say there's idea, there's timing, there's the people, then you choose the people.
It's always people. Because the people are going to take advantage of the proper timing. The people are going to develop the product. The people are going to either cut the losses early. They're going to find new markets. And if that business doesn't work, then me and that person, we're going to do another business. Right? So it's always the person, because this person I may be talking to every single day for the next 5 or 10 years. All right? And if I don't like the person doesn't like me, or we both don't have the same vision or moral standards, then you don't want to pick up the phone. If you don't want to pick up the phone and communicate, sooner or later, it's not going to be a business.
This is what I heard from one of your team members. He told me that you invested in his company, you lost approximate of $6 million. But by the end of the day, you're depending on him now. He turned to be magic. He turned to be more. He bought back the 6 million and more. How is it being that patient to wait after spending 6 million and still you believe in that guy?
You know, I think that because you have to analyze why did something go wrong. First of all, you have to put a lens and a mirror on yourself and see if you didn't give the right direction. You have to see if you equip the people with the right things. And sometimes, you have to realize there are so many variables to why something would go down or not, right? And if you see that person probably was, out of the 10 things that happened, that person was the only thing that made sure the 6 million wasn't 10 million loss, then you want to do that. It's almost like having, listen, at the end of the day, it's like having a relationship or a marriage when you're doing a business, right? After you go through all the problems and see how people stand the test of time through the hard times, then you realize if there's a potential future.
Saying that it's like a marriage, people maybe know whom to marry or what do they want, but an entrepreneur, what do you look into the entrepreneur? What's the main characteristics that you look for?
Well, I find that most entrepreneurs have what we call a big rejection muscle, right? They know the door is going to get slammed in their face often. Entrepreneurs are blatantly honest with themselves about the purpose that they're doing these things for and what the potential outcome is. They have a very strong passion about something. They know every single thing about the thing that they're talking about. If it's about a mattress, they know everything about a mattress. They know why it hurts people, helps people, and everything. They're obsessed with that. And they're also infectious. They make you believe that even when they're pitching you, they're not pitching you. They're sharing with you the story. And they're going to go out and do it with or without you. You just happen to be one of the stops on the train, right? And those are some of the characteristics of entrepreneurs. I can go on with many, many more, but those are the key ones because they really love what they do. They have a vision. They're very passionate about it. And, you know, they're problem solvers.
From your angle, now I would like to talk from your angle looking into an entrepreneur. What do you search for? What is the things that you said people are more important than the idea or the product, or what do you search in them?
I personally search for people that have in-depth knowledge about what they're doing, but they've also failed a good amount of times, especially failing in exactly what they're pitching. You may have failed as a car salesman and opening up a gym, and yes, you may understand the fundamentals of business, but if you're trying to sell me a clothing brand, I want to know that you failed a good amount of time in that world of apparel, because if you still have the passion for it, you also know what you shouldn't do, and then I need to know your vision.
So are you telling me that you search not for someone with a success story, but he had a failure? Is this, and usually I think that if I want to work with someone, I need someone that is successful, he never did mistakes, this is the best guy. Is it the opposite?
It's the opposite to me, because I think that, you know, people who are successful usually have a lot of failures. So, you know, I think a lot of people out there go out to the world and say, I have to make myself seem perfect, and that's not reality. Anybody that has experienced any form of success knows that you're lying.
People in the GCC, where I come from, or the Middle East, look up to you, and they'll be seeing you in this show. What do you say for those entrepreneurs in the Middle East?
You know what, I would say that entrepreneurs, whether in the Middle East or in Asia or in South America or United States, it's all the same. You know, people think that entrepreneurship is something new. It's not. We've been bartering and trading since the beginning of time, right? We just now have put a name on it, right? Most of the world are entrepreneurs. Most of the world doesn't have access to big corporations and things of that nature. And today is the easiest and the best time to become an entrepreneur ever before. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to do a couple of things. They want to feed their family. They want to be able to have access to medical and things like that. And they want to put their kids through school or enjoy a good time with their wife or husband. And today, when you can pick up a cell phone, a smartphone, and you can touch the entire world with this. So whether you're communicating about selling a song or selling a product you make or advice or therapy or food or whatever it is, you can empower yourself from your cell phone. We see people do so many things. I've met so many people who are millionaires today that weren't a year ago, and they're sitting on their couch at home. And I say to all those people who are entrepreneurs or thinking like entrepreneurs, there's no reason you can't do it, because you look at me. If I'm dyslexic and I did not have money and my parents got divorced and I never went to college and I'm short, I can't play basketball, I can't sing, I can't dance, and you have all of that, and I can make it, and I grew up in a very tough neighborhood, then why can't other people make it? If you look at the top 1,000 wealthiest people in the world, over 60% of them were self-made men and women. That means they had nothing in the beginning, right?
Yeah, right.
They're self-made men and women. So I say that entrepreneurship is something everybody should respect. But everybody, if they're working at a company, don't feel bad, because you have to think like an entrepreneur. You have to work at a company and think like one, because you never know where those tools will help you, even help you in that company. You start your own later on. So it is just so empowering.
I promised myself and the team even not to ask you this question, but now I want to ask it.
Sure.
How wealthy are you?
How wealthy am I?
Yes.
I'm extremely, extremely wealthy because I have 3 amazing daughters and my health and all of that. If you're talking about money,
yes.
Oh, money! I have, well, Bill Gates is here, and I'm right here somewhere, down there.
But still huge.
You're never going to have more money or bigger things than other people, so don't worry about it.
What was the biggest thing that you learned and the biggest regret, if I can say? Do you have regrets?
Do I have regrets? There are a couple of regrets that I may have, but I don't know. And I think that many of the people watching today who are parents, how more could I have been in my family or children's lives? And did I put too much time into work? I say that as I was building my companies, should I be home more? But I was working on my dream, and my dream was always to take care of my family. Would I have put the same amount of work in on somebody else's dream if I was working at a company? And that's always going to be a question I think every parent's going to ask if they regret how much they were or weren't around. And my only other regret is that when we were opening our stores in South Africa,
yes,
my other partners went out there and I declined to take the trip. And then Mandela called my partners and they flew over to meet Mandela, and I never got to meet Mandela before he passed away.
Not many wealthy men go back and support entrepreneurs. You did that many times. And this is the main reason why we are here today, because we believe that you looked back and start supporting entrepreneurs. Why do you do that? I know that you've answered it before, but I need to know what is the exact reason.
Well, the exact reason, and I think I surround myself with like-minded people, so I don't want to cast on other individuals that they don't go back, because the people I know go back, right? So I hope more go back than we think. The reason why I do it is because I was given that chance. I was mentored by small local entrepreneurs as I was growing up. Whenever I looked out at people like Russell Simmons, he had this way, and he has this way of doing business where he's very inclusive. And I used to think you had to be a mean businessman, like the TV shows I saw, like Wall Street in Dallas, right? And he taught me to reach out. So, anytime I've reached out to somebody to mentor me, even at this day and age, because, on Shark Tank, I acquire a lot of companies, so I have to call people that sometimes I don't know, and they always pick up the phone. And then I became a presidential ambassador for global entrepreneurship by the president and Secretary of Commerce, Penny Pritzker, and the White House. And my job then became to go out and share the concept of entrepreneurship and inspire people and give them access to capital and information on how to scale. And when I went out there and I started to see that whether it's in the streets of California with the gangs or overseas in Kenya or in Cuba, when people have no hope and they don't think they can feed their families, then other people take advantage of that. Other people ask them to do things that may not be in the best interest of any of us. And instead, when you teach people about how to empower themselves and be an entrepreneur, they help build the entire community. They start innovating things. They start coming up with things. When I was over in Kenya, most of the entrepreneurs, their ideas were how to maximize growing crops, how to stop human trafficking, and a lot of other apps and things like this. Yeah, they'll figure they'll make money, maybe, but at the end of the day, they were trying to solve issues like bringing clean water to people. And I started to realize the power of that, and now I know that that's been one of my calling, is to empower as many people as I can to understand the power of entrepreneurship.
What is the main challenge you face or investors face when they invest?
I think the main challenge that most investors face is that if the person is a good operator, how much do they have to invest time and other resources? If it was just money, it's very easy. Here's money, here's money, here's money. But first of all, is the person set up to take in funding? Can we track it, taxes, this, that, everything else like that, number one. Number two, how will they allocate the money? Will they exercise the power of broke? Or will they say, now that I have $1 million, I need $1 million in advertising? You know, and after that, how will they sustain growth? Because you have to think about an investor. Investors have money and they may have time. They have their own ideas. So if I'm going to have to allocate 10 people to this and my time and my money, I might as well do that on something I own 100%. So I think that a lot of these people have to think that what is in it for the investor.
في محطة مهمة من رحلة دايموند جون احترف تقديم المحاضرات والدروس للحديث عن التسويق والمبيعات وتنمية رأس المال. وقد شارك دايموند جون في الكثير من المحافل الاجتماعية والنسائية والمدارس والجامعات للحديث ولنشر الكثير من أفكاره في بريطانيا والولايات المتحدة الأمريكية.
Talking about advertisement or marketing, is there a tip regarding marketing, an equation when it comes to marketing? How is it important? How marketing is important?
Yeah. Well, first of all, marketing and branding is extremely important because you need to, first of all, know yourself and who you're going out after and what community you're going to build. And if you don't know this and you don't have some form of organic type of following and or building, then you can end up spending all your money on marketing. So if you can't identify who your customer is to then market to, then how can you identify who your customer is to sell to? So it's extremely important, and that's why I try to tell people they have to exercise the power of broke and build these communities very, very small. Because entrepreneurs out there, a lot of them think, well, if I have a lot of money, I'm going to do a lot of advertising. Well, if you have one product that you can't sell and it's crap, if you buy $1 million worth of that crap, now you have $1 million worth of crap, right? So if you spend, you know, $1 million advertising it, now you have to do $30 million in sales. Sell one. You know, Mark Zuckerberg started off with one friend, right? I started off selling one hat, and it kept going on and on and on. But marketing and advertising is by far, branding is the most important thing because you have to find your customer. And then once you find your customer, you can replicate it in various different regions, areas, or categories.
When was that the main moment when you felt the change? You felt that you went from a place to another. Do you remember, is it a day? Is it a moment? Do you remember that?
You know, that's a good question. Well, you know, it was a series of moments. It was, all right, now we're turning the house into a factory and we're making clothes here. Then it was, wait a minute, we got a deal with Samsung and we can distribute clothes, and we moved into that beautiful building right there on the 48th floor with a room, you know, maybe 800 square feet. Wait a minute, we just sold $50 million worth of clothes, and now we have a staff, and now we have to take, you know, 2 rooms on the 66th floor. Wait a minute, $300 million, now we have to take the whole 66th floor. But at all that time, I had what I call, and I think every entrepreneur should, is a healthy paranoia. I believe that no matter what, a clothing line comes and goes, and it's gonna go, so is it gonna be today or tomorrow? So we kept going, let's acquire this line, acquire this line, acquire this line, and we kept acquiring other lines. And we'd fail. We brought Ted Baker over to the United States. They wanted to go retail. We didn't know how to open up retail stores. We failed. We brought Kappa over to the United States. Failed. A couple of brands failed. So I started to say, all right, this is all going to go away. And then Coogee came and other couple of brands. So I think I finally felt like I made it to some level, maybe about 5 years ago.
When you have a target and you work on that target and you reach it in a point, how do that feel?
That's a good question. I mean, some people have a target on what they thought a target would be. I threw that out the window once I made my first $1 million because I said, I had that target of being a millionaire for many years. And especially it was when I decided not to go to college and I decided I was smarter than everybody else. And I knew that if I was selling cars, crash cars, I would sell them. And I had a target. I was going to be a millionaire by 22. Well, I always joke and say Mike Tyson has this saying, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So I got punched in the face by 22. I didn't have any money at all. So when I finally made my first $1 million.
When was that?
I made my first $1 million when I was, I think, 27 years old. I made my first $1 million, and by the time I paid on my credit cards, house, paid taxes on it, I bought a car for $60,000 and loaned 2 or 3 friends some money, I had zero. I realized that it wasn't as much as I thought. You don't know how badly in debt you are until you actually look at it. I stopped putting a target on those things, and I've been happy ever since.
When is it enough when it comes to money? I know we talked about money a lot, but people talk about money.
Yeah.
Is there a moment where someone feels that that's enough?
I don't know, because I'm not, and I'm very honest when I say this, and some people are going to think that it sounds crazy, but I don't have to work again for the rest of my life. But I'm not a billionaire. Many people think I'm a billionaire. I'm not a billionaire. I sold $6 billion worth of clothes, and anybody that knows business, partners, taxes, that's
revenue, that's sales.
Yeah, I don't have to work. I don't have to work again, but I don't also need more money. I'm very, very happy now, but I'm approaching 50 years old. I have a brand new baby girl who's 6 months, 7 months old, right? My other girls are a little bit older. I'm looking at my health. I'm looking at when I'm going to have time for my family and for myself, and how can I go around the world now and give back because of how blessed I've been with entrepreneurship and helping people. So I don't happen to have that target as money as my goal,
I've been in many CEOs' offices, and usually when I open the door of their offices, I start walking maybe 2 minutes until I reach their table. But when I came here, it's different.
Yeah.
I didn't know which one was your office between all those offices.
Yeah.
Can we go down and tell me what office are you in and why all those people around you? So can we go down?
All right, come on, let's go.
Mr. Daymond, I just told you up that usually when I go into CEO's offices, you open the door and you walk for 2 minutes and then you reach his office.
Right.
We came here, they told us this is your office. Which one is your office?
Well, my office is right here. So the way that I set this out is that almost like a huge incubator, right? Because you don't have any walls in an incubator, and innovation comes together when people can easily talk and communication is quicker. Walls and people, oh, did somebody say this? Oh, let me make a meeting. Now, they just stand up, hey, you said that. So I like to stand right in the middle of it. So you have the exterior ones, and then you have mine right here. And then all my desks, they're Vera desks, and because I also want people to be able to stand and feel healthier, have a healthier life, So all my desks, you can lower and raise all the desks, you see?
Okay.
And all the desks are like that. So you'll notice that in the beginning of the day when people have energy, they'll lift them up. But it keeps people just very active. And when they're active and they're happy, they don't get as sluggish. So it's always about improving things. So like when we were sitting upstairs, I'm creating a huge version of that called Blueprint and Co. And I just believe that leaders need to be in the trenches with their team.
And so this is the office, then you'll be doing deals, you'll be doing work, and all those people surrounding you?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we all have our private rooms. There's like phone booths and this and that in case somebody really needs to go have a call that's of a sensitive nature. Accountants and attorneys, they can't be in areas like this because they're talking about legal matters. But for the most part, this is how everybody's desk is. And you'll see it go all the way around there, it goes into there, and you know, this is the way of the world now. I'm noticing that all around the world. A lot of companies are starting to do that because it increases productivity, or you start to see the people that are really not pulling their weight. And that's really innovation, right? Isn't it, when people get to talk and have a communication?
Sure, but one of the things that I know for a fact, and everyone knows that people die to work for you. And then we started asking, do he give you the large salaries? Is it because of bonuses? They said it's not bonuses, it is partnership. Can you explain this?
Yeah, well, you know, I have a theory. I have a theory that, first of all, we love when people start off as interns, but of course you have to go to college to be part of us as an intern. And most of my employees, over the course of my my history, maybe 25 years in business, has started off as interns. Then the next stage is, if you have an opportunity here, you have 3 different cycles. You have your specific job that you've been hired for. You then have the job as a team member that you are supposed to jump in where you see fit. And then if those 2 go well, then if you have an idea, concept, then we can be partners on something. Because at the end of the day, like you had asked me, how much money is enough? You know, there are a lot of studies that have shown that people don't necessarily do things for money. They'd rather do things for acknowledgement and reward, right? So if you feel that somebody doesn't have a glass ceiling, you feel that they can be anything they want, then yes, they'll get a salary, they'll get incentives, but this is really what it's for. Because if somebody's a really good person or a really good employee, you're either going to lose them because they're going to go off and start another business, or somebody's going to just offer them way more money and steal them from you. So why don't you make them a partner? You're not going to stop somebody who's going to do it anyway.
You said that you make deals because of people, more than ideas and more than timing. Is there anybody from those seats from the Shark Tank? They sit here down?
I have to think about it. There are several people from Shark Tank that are employed in my organization. Some do sit here, but one is based in, I think, San Diego. The other one is based in LA, and they work in different aspects. And the businesses that we had, one, we licensed out the business very quickly, and so they get a check, but now they're part of the team. So there have been several people from Shark Tank who have become partners and/or worked within my company after we did the deal. So absolutely. And when they come here, you have some open desks. They sit there and they make themselves at home.
My last question. You write here, best advice. Is it the best advice, or do you have another advice you would say for the people?
Well, I mean, this best advice that was given to me from, I remember he was an old salesperson, an older, short salesperson, and I started making money. I remember I said I had a healthy paranoia. He said, don't spend all your money, kid, right? And I really remember retaining that. But then later on in life, I think the best advice I ever heard was that money is a great slave, but a horrible master. And again, going back to when you said how much money is enough, you know, when I started to realize that when people did things purely for money and there was no other driving force, often they could end up in the wrong place, or when they get the money because they were miserable at what they were doing. They would spend it or destroy themselves and things of that nature. And I really just looked at that information and I started to say, yeah, whenever I did something for money, I never made money. Right? But when I did it for a passion or a drive or what I thought was the end result that would enhance whatever it is, I made money.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for this conversation.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate
it.
it.
Thank you, Damon. Thank you. David, we talked about your early days, but how did that reflect now being a father on your children?
You know, as a father, as a parent, I think it's always challenging and very, very rewarding, of course, having kids and somebody that you brought into the world. You know, I think that we have to learn from our past experiences, and we can either have that damage us or we can use it to our best of our ability. And I think that as being a parent, knowing how my father happened to not have been in my life, that was something that I wanted to make sure never happened between my kids and I. And having a partner such as my ex-wife, she also had the same vision, and at least I made that one good decision that whether things worked out with us or not, that she's always been somebody who has been very, very supportive in raising the kids and also making sure that the kids know who their father is and that we have a good relationship. So again, it's a partner, but unlike being in a business where you can conform the business and you can dissolve the business, you can't dissolve having kids. It is a process, and it's a constant learning process. And the more that, you know, I share with them, the more that they teach me. And hopefully, you know, they'll grow up to be people who contribute, and they're going to be the same way with their kids. And I'm very, very fortunate.
Luckily now they have you. Do they have a boss at home or a leader or a big brother? What is the type of relationship with someone like you? How do you position yourself in the house?
If you were to ask your father or mother or parents, you know, or I were to ask you what you thought of them when you were 12 or 18 or 25 or 30, it changes, right? You know, of course, I'm sure that I am a boss when I come home. You talk to me this way, and that. But you know, I grew up in a very, you know, initial part of it. I grew up in a very traditional family where the father was very bang, 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 bang. I try not to be, but no matter what, when you're telling somebody they can't have something, you're mean and whatever the case is. But again, you know, I hope that I have an open friendship and relationship with them. But I also have daughters, so they're going to be way more. They're going to share way more with their mother. I mean, they're women, you know. So, but I'm a father sometimes, I'm a friend sometimes, and I'm a boss and enemy other times. And I think that's what probably all parents go through.
Sometimes you say, okay, deal, and someone else in the Shark Tank says that, and then the entrepreneur chooses one of you.
Yeah.
Why do you think you're the best in the Shark Tank?
Well, I don't necessarily think I'm the best. I think that I am the best for a certain person with a certain product, and I learned that probably after about 5 years. You see, the sharks are learning just as much every single year. And I learned that because I saw Lori do deals with things that I thought was stupid. I didn't get them. I'll give you an example. She did a deal with a little pin that you put on a shirt. You put your glasses in it. Now, myself, Tommy Bahama, many other clothing designers have been making shirts with pockets where there's a pin in it, where there's a hole in it. So, why would that ever work? Well, Lori goes and sells $8 million worth of the pin. Now, let's think about why she sold $8 million worth of the pin. She's been on QVC for 17 years selling reading glasses. She's been selling to a female who generally, they have not made pockets for females with little sliding holes in it. So she had a vision, she had an outlet, and she had a customer base. So she had a way to put it out. I would have taken the product and I wouldn't have had the same vision. And that's why I've learned that I am not necessarily the best shark. I'm the best shark at a certain time. And again, it's like a relationship, it's like a marriage. Who's the right person, you know?
Thank you for this conversation. We have a gift for you that represents
you have a
our
gift for
program.
Me.
Yes, you deserve more, but this is what we have today for you.
I love it.
I think now when you see a boat, then it's dinner time.
I love it. My own Power Owners boat?
Yes,
I
your
love
Power
it.
Owners boat.
Well, I have to give you a gift.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And also we have another thing you said.
Wait, I got to give you my gift.
Sure.
This is my presidential ambassador coin.
Thank you.
All right, and because I'm an ambassador, and this is my coin to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And also you have another thing, which is you said you love the disdache that we wear.
Yes.
So, and I have all the outfits for you.
All right.
You can wear them whenever you want.
I love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. عبارة قالها لي والدي وأعاد صياغتها اليوم دايموند جون. المال مهم، لكن القلب ليس بمحله بل اليد. وإن ملأت القلب بما تحب حصلت على المال وكل شيء. فافعلوا ما تحبون فتهنؤون. شكرا للمتابعة.